Our guest on Perspectives today is Meeghan Humphrey. She is the executive director of the Ashtabula Art Center. Hello, Meeghan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, like so many of my interviews, it seems to be dominated by COVID-19. And it's been just about a year ago that the second week of Frozen, with all kinds of people signed up to see it, and it had to be canceled because of COVID. At the time, I thought, well, this will be a week or two, and hopefully it'll be back in business. And I was wrong. Did you think it was going to last this long, and a year later you would really know for sure what's going on?
No, I didn't think it would last this long, although I was, I was sure that we wouldn't be back in business in a week.
Right.
But I thought maybe by fall, at this point I'm thinking maybe by fall 2021 instead of 2020.
So you don't think there's going to be a summer session?
We are hopeful that we will begin to do some things outdoors in the summer. We're not planning any theater for inside, but we do have our Straw Hat Theater, and we have the ability to raise the sides so it can be an open-air pavilion. So we are hoping that we can work with the health department and set up some safe standards for having theater out there. We may have very, very reduced audiences based on spacing. I suspect that we're still going to be under the same audience restrictions that we're under now, which is 15% of capacity. So if you look at that theater that holds 270 people, 15% of that is not a lot in the theater. But we are planning to do some outdoor events. Last September, we had a really nice open mic night, and a lot of the people who performed with us came and did one or two songs. And we could do that because we could use the entire lawn, and we hope to be able to do that again. And we're hoping to do some more music events outside. And anything that we do in the theater, our traditional Straw Hat season is usually big musicals, and we can't even really audition those yet or safely rehearse them. So we may do a smaller children's production at the end of the summer. We may try to do a couple of comedies, but it's all very flexible right now because we still don't know what we'll be able to use that theater for in the summer.
Anything would be good, right? I mean, I know that there are actors and actresses that do a lot of theater at the Art Center, and they're chomping at the bit.
Absolutely. I think there's an appetite to get back on stage for our performers, and I think there's an appetite for the audience.
Oh, definitely.
We just have been very aware that COVID is a community issue to solve right now, and keeping our theater closed keeps our community members safe and our audience safe, and we're waiting that process out. But I think once we have the go-ahead to do anything, even if we're going to do a small comedy with a cast of 4 or 5 people, and we can have a maximum of 40 people in the audience, people will still want to audition for that, and people will still want to be in the audience. And as our older audience members are vaccinated, I think they'll feel more comfortable coming out. And a lot of our audience members are in that 65 and older group. So I think by summer, most of them will be vaccinated.
I would hope so.
More comfortable.
Do you get a break on the copyright because of the COVID? Getting the rights?
Not as much as you would think. So people aren't really aware that that's even a thing. Usually if you're not in theater, you have to pay for the rights to perform something. So every script is owned by someone, and you pay for the rights.
Right.
And your cost is based on the average ticket price and the number of seats you would typically sell. fall in a different category than an equity theater that pays all of its actors falls into, or a school. We all see different rates. So in my estimates of what we would have to pay, there has not been a significant reduction.
That's too bad. You'd think they'd be happy to get anything for rights for plays these days.
Well, and I feel badly because they're in the same situation we're in. So, for example, we had paid for the rights for everything that we were going to do last summer. And when our season was canceled, we applied for a refund of all of that money. So there's about between $10,000 and $11,000 that we had paid out that we asked back. And if you look at all of those organizations like MTI, which has a lot of musicals, if everyone that they dealt with asked for $10,000 back last March, they had to take an enormous financial hit. And then they've had a year of organizations like mine not requesting the rights.
Sure.
We can't pay out, for example, $2,500 to do a show and sell 30 seats per show and make back a third of what we would pay to do it. So,
when I told somebody that you were going to be my guest this week, she said, "Are they going to do Straw Hat this year? Are they going to do The Secret Garden?" So apparently The Secret Garden is not going to happen this year. There was some disappointment there.
It's a little early for me to say no to anything. You know, if the trending numbers continue the way that they're continuing and we get very lucky and this pandemic gets knocked back quickly, if the vaccine comes out as quickly as the federal government is now saying that it will, and that they should have all of the doses they need to vaccinate every American by June, we might be back up and running before the end of the summer. But we're not planning to audition for that show yet.
Right. There is some things going on. I know that there is a spring dance recital being planned that was canceled last year. How is that being done? How's it being modified?
So we typically, for a spring dance concert, we use the entire theater. So the indoor theater seats about 210 people. All of those seats would be available for sale. Now, this year, for each performance, we will sell our maximum, which is 32. And most likely it's just going to be the family members of cast members who have the tickets. They'll certainly be made available to them first. We are planning to try to live stream it, and the logistics of that are still getting worked out because, like a lot of more arts organizations that are performance organizations, live stream has really not been part of our wheelhouse because we think that what we do is experienced better in person. So being in the theater and being live is really what we are producing. So a live stream has really not been what we have focused on.
Is that something you think, though? Is this something you think that will, after COVID's over, that you will end up doing more of if people like it?
We may, depending on the response to it. And it is one of the ways that we can reach people who we would not typically be able to get into our theater. So it's another way that we can reach out, make arts more accessible to everyone. So there may be that component in the future. There is, because we'll go back to the rights issue, because we pay for the rights to perform, and it's based on our theater and the number of people we can fit in there. Things like plays you can't necessarily live stream without a special permission.
Right. And you have no idea if you're going to get the money back. These would be pay-per-view, correct?
Depending on what it is.
Okay.
Yes.
I know there was going to be an attempt to do the Nutcracker, but it got the COVID thing got to be too much, and they didn't want to put any dancers in danger.
Right. We ended up having kids out on quarantine to the extent that we felt we couldn't continue to rehearse, get it ready for performance with kids who were missing 2 weeks at a time and not being able to be sure that we could keep the cast together long enough to do it safely. And at that point, the COVID numbers were just growing and growing, and we decided to err on the side of caution and cancel the rehearsals so that we wouldn't be bringing these kids together when we're seeing that we're having...
I was just thinking, though, that that maybe for snowbirds, grandparents that live in Florida in the winter that have never seen their children or whoever, neighbors in the production could get to see it for the first time.
Well, and we also this year did an opportunity for people to purchase a streamed performance of last year's Nutcracker. So for people who were really missing Nutcracker this year, you could actually buy a ticket and stream Nutcracker from last year.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
We may be able to do that as well, which is record a performance like that and then stream it. And that is limited to things that are outside of the rights that you would pay for.
Correct.
So the Nutcracker choreography is owned by the Ashtabula Art Center because it was choreographed here, and we don't have to pay the artist.
Because they're long dead.
Right. Well, we certainly don't have to pay for Tchaikovsky.
Right, that's right.
But even choreography that is owned by someone else can't be performed in a live-streamed venue. So
we got about 3 minutes.
Choreography done here, we can do that.
We've got about 3 minutes left. And I want to talk about there are things going on. You do have classes, correct? There, you've got a art thing there. What am I thinking of? Art display there. You have monthly, and you do have that going on.
So yes, we have monthly exhibits, and this month we have people did entries into the exhibit. Next month it will be entries again. It's going to be a women's show. This month is art in isolation, and there's some really interesting entries in that, just what people have been making while they have been on COVID restrictions. Next month will be just women and their output. And we also have classes going on in theater, dance, and visual arts. We have private music instruction. We've modified how we do entry into the building, and we've changed our classroom spaces so that there's plenty of room and we feel we can do it safely. We limit the size of all classes.
You go with what the health department. You talk to them.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I submitted a full plan to them for everything that we're doing before we reopened for anything for the public. So they have been fabulous. They've been very, very helpful. Just, being a resource that I could call and say, here's what we're thinking of doing. Do you think this would work? And can we move ahead? So they've been really great with us.
So if somebody is getting cabin fever and they maybe want to take a class in something, they can go to ashtabulaartcenter.org and see what's there.
Right. And we also have a scholarship available, supported by Key Bank, that if you want to take one of our virtual classes, you can get a Key Bank scholarship, and that is no cost to the student.
Ah, excellent.
So, if you still are quarantining at home or getting here is, you can't get here, that scholarship is available, and you can take one of our virtual classes for free, which I think is wonderful.
Sure. We've only got a few seconds left. I just wanted to mention the Ohio Arts Council has given you a grant that's $50,000 that kind of helps keep things going.
Yes, and that is part of the CARES Act funding.
Right.
And that will help support the Art Center while we're in this year where we can't do a lot of our revenue generating
Right.
activities.
We got to go. Meeghan Humphrey from the Ashtabula Arts Center. I'm Bob Lebzelter on Perspectives.
Thank you for having me.